What is going on with Harry Potter and what is the Chamber of Secrets? Let's talk about that. What's up? What's up? John here. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Hit that bell notification so you know when I drop videos, because I'm hoping to start dropping these sooner rather than later. Let's talk Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 1 opens up with Harry back at the Dursleys. Why he's back at the Dursleys? I guess because he needs a place to live. But it's not the most ideal place. Let's talk about the Dursleys. We see them all gathered around the table for breakfast one morning, and the Dursleys, they haven't changed at all. They still hate Harry, and Harry pretty much hates them too. But this time around, coupled with their anger, is a slight fear of Harry because they know that he's a wizard and he can do things that they can't explain. And he just might turn them into frogs or piglets or whatever is on his mind in the moment that he gets angry. Dudley is still Dudley. He's still spoiled, rotten. He's a total jerk to Harry, and Harry doesn't like him. We don't expect anything less from Dudley at this point. But the Dursleys are getting ready for a big dinner date with a potential client of Vernon's.
Not now, Popkins, but when the Masons arrive.
Their minds are on tonight's dinner, and they don't even care that it's Harry's birthday. I don't know if they've just completely forgotten or if they just hate him so much that they refuse to acknowledge it. It could be either one. I like how Petunia is described in this chapter as having I think they described it as a bony horse face. She's got a bony horse face.
He's very disturbed.
It says it right there. Page 4. Bony horse face. But that's it with the Dursleys. I don't know how else to describe them. They're still a bunch of wretched heifers.
I should think you'd be a little more grateful. We've raised you since you were a baby, purely out of the goodness of our hearts.
Dudley's belching up his breakfast. Vernon can't even talk to Harry over all the belching. Harry can't even get a word in edgewise with all the belching going on. It's just ridiculous. Dudley's a ridiculous kid, man. Oh, what a wretched heifer that kid is. But Harry is missing Hogwarts. He's missing everything about Hogwarts. He's missing the grounds itself. He's missing Hagrid. He's missing the great meals. He's missing Quidditch. He's desperately missing Quidditch. And he doesn't get to practice because Vernon has taken all of his stuff and locked it under the stairs. He's even gone as far as to padlock Hedwig's cage so Harry can't send any letters. And he's not receiving any letters. That's another point.
I'm warning you. If you can't control that bloody bird, it'll have to go.
Harry's not receiving any letters, and he's feeling really terrible. So not only is he stuck living with this family that he cannot stand, he has no contact with I was about to say 2, but 3 of his best friends. Harry, no, he is Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid. Wow. Hang with me. We're going to get through this. Yeah, I may need a spell to help me to speak better.
But I haven't had any messages from any of my friends. Not one. All summer.
But since he hasn't received any letters, Harry is thinking the worst, and I'm really glad we can get into Harry's head at this point because We don't see any of this in the movie, but he is really questioning his friendship with Ron and Hermione. He is assuming that they have forgotten all about him and that they're not really friends to begin with. And I think we can all kind of relate to that when something happens and we don't have all the information. We make assumptions in our own heads, and we always come up with the worst possible scenario. But that's what Harry's doing right now, and he thinks he's lost his friends. And that's very sad for Harry. With all this going on, the only thing Harry has working in his favor right now is the fact that the Dursleys have no idea that Harry is not allowed to do magic in the Muggle world. So he is using that to his advantage and getting a little leeway from them due to their fear of the unknown magic. In the book, we are made aware that it is Harry's birthday, and like I had mentioned, the Dursleys are not talking about it, except for Dudley. He makes a comment, I know what day it is, I know what day it is. And I like this part of the book because Harry has a nice little comeback. He's like, oh, great, you finally learned the days of the week. If I'm not mistaken, I think in the movie, and I'll have to go back and watch this, I think the only reference we have to know that it's Harry's birthday in the movie is later on when Ron comes back. But we'll talk about that later. But Harry and Dudley, they go back and forth, and then Harry gets a little fed up, and he, in a roundabout way, threatens Dudley with magic. And he goes and runs and tells his mommy that Harry is being a big meanie head and he threatened to use magic. And in the book, we see that Harry has to dodge a pot that Petunia either swung at him or threw at him. But either way, she's throwing pots at Harry. Wow. One thing about this chapter that stood out to me that's not mentioned in this point of the movie is that it's mentioned that Voldemort, his powers were completely destroyed when he failed to kill Harry. I would like to know what happened in that moment. I would like to hear more about that moment when Voldemort cast a spell onto Harry and it didn't work. What happened to Voldemort in that moment? His body was destroyed because when we saw him at the end of the Sorcerer's Stone, he had no body. His face was on the back of Quirrell's head. Can you imagine how irritating that must be for Quirrell? And what has he been doing in the 10 years it has taken him to come back? How exactly was his body destroyed? Did he disappear? Did he explode? Did he burst into flames and turn to ash like Harry did to Quirrell? I have all these questions. I want to know. Why did it take him 10 years to come back? Here's another question. Why exactly did he target the Potters? I know the Potters were resistant against him, but there were a lot of wizarding families that were opposed to Voldemort. So why did he choose the Potters? And what happened between the time that Voldemort was destroyed and Dumbledore got Harry? Because we see the beginning of the first movie, Dumbledore has Harry. I want to know what happened between the time when Voldemort was destroyed and when Dumbledore got Harry. And we know Snape was there because we saw him in tears for his lost love. What does Snape have to do with Voldemort being destroyed? Was he behind it? I just want to know. That was mentioned in the chapter, and all these questions started flooding my head. But back to the story at hand. The Dursleys are having a dinner. And they force Harry to stay hidden.
And you?
I'll be in my bedroom. Making no noise and pretending that I don't exist.
Too right you will.
Something else that's overlooked in the movie is the fact that the Dursleys make Harry basically their slave. They force him to do all the work. He's basically outside that entire day working until 7 o'clock that night when Petunia gives him a dinner of bread and cheese and makes him go up into his room where he will,
I'll be in my bedroom, making no noise and pretending that I don't exist.
which leads us into chapter 2. So Harry goes up to his room and he's going to lay on his bed
Making no noise and pretending that I don't exist.
until he sees
Harry Potter.
yep, Dobby's there. He's in Harry's room, and he is there for one reason and one reason only.
Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year.
Dobby is warning Harry that great danger awaits at Hogwarts. And Harry wants nothing more than to go back to Hogwarts because he misses everything about it, especially Quidditch. When Harry first meets Dobby, he specifically says, "Who are you?" rather than "What are you?" Even though we clearly see that Dobby is not human. And this says a lot about Harry. We know Harry is humble and respectful, and this is just further evidence that he's even respectful to a house elf wearing a pillowcase.
Like an equal.
You can't have met many decent wizards then.
No, I haven't.
This part of the book and the movie, for that matter, is a little painful. Just how Dobby is. Dobby is such a slave to his wizarding family. And I use that term family loosely because it is not a family. But he is such a slave to them that if he does something that he remotely thinks they would disapprove of, he punishes himself. And we see in the movie that he is constantly banging his head on the wall or hitting himself with something. In the book, we see that Dobby just had a thought about his family that wasn't great, and he proceeded to punish himself. We see that house elves in the wizarding world are basically slaves. I'm assuming they're bought and sold like property, and they're looked at as a subclass of everyone else, and they are basically mistreated and forced to be slaves in whatever house they're in until they're dead. And then I assume that the family would just go out and buy another house elf. That's a very, very sad existence, and it makes me wonder about the psychological uh, effects on the house elves. Because in the movie, we see that the house elves are very, very mean, hateful, disrespectful beings. And it makes me wonder if their living situation and their social class make them that way, or are they given that social class because of their behavior? Again, so many questions. But Dobby is basically pleading with Harry to just tell him that he won't go back to Hogwarts. And in this process, Harry remembers Hermione, and then later at another point, Ron. And again, we get in his head and just see how painful it is for Harry to even remember his friends and not have them responding to him over the summer. And Harry tells him he's got to go to Hogwarts. He doesn't belong in the Muggle world.
I don't belong here. I belong in your world, at Hogwarts. It's the only place I've got friends.
Harry tells Dobby he belongs in Dobby's world, in the wizarding world. And that just made me think. One school year at Hogwarts, and Harry is ready to completely give up the Muggle world in favor of the wizarding world and Hogwarts. That says a lot. Dobby makes the comment, that he knows that Dumbledore is the greatest headmaster that Hogwarts has ever seen. And he goes on to say that Dumbledore's powers rival Voldemort's at the height of his strength. Not even now, at the height of his strength. And then he goes on to say, but there is power that Dumbledore, that no decent wizard, he doesn't finish either one of these statements. That leads me to believe that Voldemort either has some power or is pursuing some power that Dumbledore knows nothing about. One little detail in the movie that I thought was great was when Vernon comes into Harry's room to basically threaten him for not being quiet.
I was just...
You just ruined the punchline of my Japanese golfer joke.
Sorry.
The closet door, it keeps opening just a little bit. And I don't know if in the movie if it was meant for Dobby to be pushing the door open or if that door was just loose, but Harry keeps pushing it. And Vernon goes, and fix that blasted door.
One more sound, and you'll wish you'd never been born, boy. And fix that door.
So Harry and Dobby are going back and forth arguing about Hogwarts, and Harry makes the comment he has to go back to Hogwarts. He has friends there. And Dobby makes the comment, oh, friends that don't send you letters? Oh, he let it slip. Oh. And Harry picks up on that instantly.
Hang on. How do you know my friends haven't been writing to me?
Oh, how did you know? And that's when Dobby has to reveal that he's been intercepting Harry's letters.
Dobby hoped if Harry Potter thought his friends had forgotten him, Harry Potter might not want to go back to school, sir.
And that makes me think. Another question. Surprise, surprise. How is Dobby intercepting these letters? Because these owls fly in and drop the letters. So we know that house elves have magic. What magic is Dobby using to intercept these letters? Because he's not getting letters from Ron, Hermione, Hagrid. He's getting letters from no one. Just makes me wonder, how's he doing that? So Dobby, being completely illogical and irrational, runs downstairs where the Dursleys are, and he takes Petunia's pudding and he levitates it, and then he gives Harry one last ultimatum. Tell me you're not going, or the pudding gets it. And Harry, rather than just lying to Dobby and going, okay, I'm not going to go, he keeps saying, no, I will never tell you I won't go back to Hogwarts.
I can't. Hogwarts is my home.
Then Dobby must do it, sir.
So Dobby drops the pudding and it goes everywhere. So in the movie, we see that Dobby floats the pudding over Mr. Mason's wife's head, Mrs. Mason, and drops the pudding on her head rather than in the kitchen. Just a little detail. This is books versus movies, so I'll bring it up. Not that it makes a difference. But after Dobby does that and takes off, he's out.
I'm so sorry. It's my nephew. He's very disturbed. Meeting strangers upsets him.
A few moments later, we see an owl fly in with a letter to Harry. So Dobby either was not able to intercept that letter, or he has decided he's done intercepting letters. Either way, Harry gets a letter from the Ministry of Magic, and they somehow picked up that there was a levitation spell that was cast in that home at that time, and that's against the rules. My question is, how do they pick that up? How do they know that? They know what type of spell was cast and at what time and at what location. But this gets Harry into a lot of trouble with the Dursleys. Vernon is gonna kill Harry. But he really doesn't. Rather than killing him, he just imprisons him in his own room.
You're never going back to that school. You're never going to see those freaky friends of yours again. Never!
So Vernon imprisons Harry in his room. He puts locks on the doors. He hires somebody to put bars on the windows. He cuts a little hole in the door to pass food. And he only allows Harry to come out of his room to use the bathroom. Now that's straight up prison. Sounds like Vernon wants to go to prison himself. That is straight up child abuse. According to the book, Harry spends 2 weeks, I think it is, living in this prison that the Dursleys have put him in. They're slipping him scraps of food, cold soup, whatever they have laying around is what he gets to eat. And he has to share that with Hedwig, because Hedwig's getting nothing. And this is just a miserable, miserable existence. Harry's stuck in his room. He's got nothing to do, no one to talk to. And another part of the book that I wish would have been in the movie is Harry has this dream that he's trapped in a cage and he's on display. People are kind of tormenting him, and Harry's saying, "Stop it, stop it." And it says Harry's head is sore. That makes me wonder if Voldemort is behind this terrible dream. I think he is. But in the book, Harry wakes up quickly from his dream, and he sees a face in his window. At this point, I don't think it could get any worse for poor Harry. He's in prison in his own home, if you can even call this a home. But that's chapters 1 and 2. Thanks for joining me. Like I said before, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Maybe you have an answer to all these questions that I've had so far. Or maybe you just want to say what's up. I'm good either way. But thank you for joining me in this journey. Until next time.